Back to the final video of the holistic speaker training. You made it! I'm so thrilled you stuck with it, you watched the videos, and this topic, I love it. I'm so grateful to share it with you. It's how do I develop mastery? And in this video series we're talking about questions you should be asking yourself about becoming a professional speaker and using speaking to build your practice. The question you should be asking, really the most important question, is how do I develop mastery? How do I become a master speaker? Funny thing about this is I have a lot of peers who are coaches or they're speakers or they're consultants, and sometimes in their marketing material they say master coach or master speaker. I know for sure that as of the time of recording these videos, summer 2014, I am not a master speaker. I'm an expert speaker. I'm a great speaker, but I'm not a master. Mastery is reserved for those who've put in those 10,000 hours, who've invested a lifetime, really given their life to something in which they've paid their dues and they can be recognized clearly as a master. So how do we get to that point? How do we develop mastery? Even if you don't want to be a master speaker, if that's not your calling in life, you want to develop mastery in speaking, still have the same pathway to take. Now this also applies to your profession. If you're an acupuncturist, an naturopath, you want to be a master of your craft, same thing applies. As a parent, anything you want to be really good at. So the first stage that we go through is called the dabbler. And the dabbler is that individual who finds something they like, gets really interested, and just goes for it. Says, this is so great. I'm learning tennis. I love tennis. Tennis is so fun. Hey, have you learned tennis? Hey, you should come play tennis with me. And then they get to this point where they begin to plateau, and they're kind of wondering what's going on, and then all of a sudden they actually start to lose effectiveness. Not only is it not as fun, but they're not as good. Maybe they've learned that they were holding the racket wrong, and the right way to hold the racket is with the wrist turned, and then all of a sudden the brute force they were using to hit the ball isn't working anymore because they're needing to backpedal and unlearn some things. And at that point the dabbler says, tennis isn't for me. I'm not destined to achieve greatness in tennis. I'm not created for tennis. It's not in my genetic predisposition. It's not in my karmic destiny. It's not in my astrology. It's not what my parents want me to do. I am not for tennis. Tennis is not for me. So they take up golf and they're having a great time. I love golf. Golf is fun. You should come golf with me. I'm reading golf magazines. I'm going to golf websites. And they hit this point at which the fun starts to wear off, their skill and ability starts to taper, and then all of a sudden it falls. And you say, you know what? Golf's not for me. It's not part of my karmic destiny. It's not what I'm designed for. I have a different calling in life. This just must not be for me. And likewise, they just dabble in things. And the minute that there's a setback, they decide, oh, that must not be for me because it's difficult. And if it was for me, there'd be an endless expanse of just my passion flowing all the time. That's the dabbler. The second stage in mastery would be called the hacker. Now, I love to hack things. There's nothing wrong with being a hacker. There's nothing wrong with being a dabbler. These are just stages towards mastery. Hacker culture is very popular right now, and for good reason. There's a lot of things we should hack. And a hacker basically looks like this. You start out, you plateau, you drop down, you think, man, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so you figure out a shortcut to get some great results, and then you're fine with them staying right about there. One of my favorite hackers that I follow, that I love his books, his blogs, his videos, everything he does, Tim Ferriss. 4-Hour Body, 4-Hour Chef, 4-Hour Work Week. He's really made an art form of hacking into the body, the brain, productivity, skills, just to get higher level functioning. He's not necessarily teaching you to become masterful in these areas, but to get results quickly, and I love it, but let's be clear, it's not mastery. The third stage of mastery development would be called the obsessive. By the way, this was initially taken from George Leonard's book of the same name, Mastery. I've also seen this taught by Tony Robbins and many other self-help teachers, but originally I first learned it from George Leonard's book, Mastery. You might be interested in checking that out. The obsessive is a very masculine, a very type A approach to achievement. They start out here. Tennis is great. I love tennis. They plateau. And then they start to drop. No effing way. I am an achiever, so I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to get over here. Then I'm going to have kind of burnout, knee injury, and then start over. A little bit faster this time. Plateau. No. And then it's just basically like this. It's basically the individual who hurts themselves. You know, there's a guy at my gym, I see him working out, he's got an injury like twice a year he injures himself. He goes in, big guy, until he gets an injury, then he becomes kind of a big guy, and then he comes back and works out, becomes a big guy. But he comes in, he's just pushed through, gonna hit it, and he overtrains and he injures himself. That's the obsessive. So we've looked at the dabbler, we've looked at the hacker, and you've learned about the obsessive. Now let's look at what actually constitutes the mastery curve. What does it look like to master a skill? Whether it's speaking or your practice or anything in life. The master starts out, beginner's mind, and hits the plateau and says, oh, this is normal. This happens. I'll need to unlearn some things, readjust. It's called a breakdown to breakthrough. Anytime we're learning something new, anytime we're growing, we're going to experience some chaos and confusion before life reorganizes. This is a natural part of growth in any endeavor. And the master just knows that's normal, consolidates here, recommits, and goes back up another growth curve. It's fun, it's exciting, and then there's a plateau, and then it's difficult, challenging, but he knows it's normal, sticks with it, gets grounded, reconnects, refocuses. Never ending. It never ends. The mastery curve goes on for the rest of your life. And that is how you develop mastery in speaking, in your private practice, in business, in relationships, in parenting, in anything in which you wish to develop mastery. I'm so grateful that you took the time to participate in this video series, and we're going to share with you now some of our offerings, some of the ways that you can continue working with us, some of the ways that you can continue to develop mastery, and I promised you a story that I heard in an interview between Howard Stern and Jerry Seinfeld. So Howard Stern asked Jerry Seinfeld, hey, how do you create such great material? I mean, are you always thinking about jokes? Are you always writing? Is your brain always working? And Seinfeld said, yes, I'm always thinking about material. And he said, doesn't that bother your wife? He said, that's none of her business. What goes on in my mind? I'm always working on material. He said, well, doesn't that drive you crazy? I mean, doesn't it just make you nuts that you're constantly obsessed with coming up with material? You're having lunch with someone, you can't just be having lunch. You're thinking about how that could be material for your profession as a comedian. And Jerry Seinfeld shared this nugget of wisdom that I want to leave you with. I think it's brilliant. He said, yeah, it's torturous. It drives me crazy. But I think success in life is about finding the torture that you love. Success in life is about finding something that you're willing to wrestle with, that you're willing to be challenged by, that you're willing to be defeated by, because every time you are growing, you're going to have some defeats along the way. You're willing to embrace that confusion and that chaos, but you love it. But you're committed to it. It's yours to do. So I encourage you to continue to stay true to your calling, to stay strong in your values, and to continue to let your creative spirit, that warrior spirit, shine, and to continue to go out there and give your gifts and shine your light and find that torture that you love and let it be okay. Let it be difficult at times and commit to it. Become a master of whatever you do. We're going to share with you now a few offerings that you can take to continue on with us along this curve, and we'll share those with you throughout the next series of autoresponders on this email sequence that you signed up for, and right now as well. Thank you.